Welcome to Rocket League, a game that I've never played.
Hey guys, it's Squishy Muffins, and I'm just going to show you a real quick clip from an aerial I got in a match.
Today we're making a video that can show you how to be the absolute goddamn worst at Rocket League.
In the beginning, it was perfect.
Defense and eye by power, not things you usually talk about at the same time. He's carrying it. Grenoble, they can put it in! They stay.
For the longest time, I've wanted to make a video expressing my unrelenting love for this thing we call car soccer.
But when you're at the top, the only place to go is down.
So Epic Games bought Psyonix. Straight up bought Rocket League like it was produce at a farmer's market.
It's just the single worst voice chat in video game history, and I'm not exaggerating.
I'm honestly pretty worried about the future for Rocket League.
The goal is to score more than your opponent. Realistically, how much more can you put into a game?
Rocket League.
Wild 9. Unable to take it, but Squishy now. Daily shot! He puts it through! He's been going for this stuff all season, and he pulls it off here in the most clutch moments.
Rocket League's story begins not with the game itself, but way back in 2001, 14 years prior to Rocket League's release in Raleigh, North Carolina. Here, a young, savvy game designer by the name of Dave Hagewood would quit his job at Epic Games and create a small indie game developing company by the name of Psyonix. Striving to make games that were fun, not realistic, Hagewood and his team of around 10 people were off. From the start, Psyonix worked closely with the larger game producer Epic Games, helping popularize titles like Gears of War. But by the year 2008, the small game design company had shifted focus onto their own plans. Their first game was a long shot at a crazy idea. A third-person, high-speed car soccer game where cars have no limit on what they can do. Boost was added to make it possible to fly around the arena, and even the walls could be driven on. This game was of course what we all know and love today, supersonic, acrobatic, rocket-powered battle cars. Okay, maybe not what you know and love, but no matter how impressive or unimpressive as a game it was the predecessor to Rocket League. SARP was released to highly mixed reviews and was never able to take off into the mainstream like Rocket League did. However, with the exact same exciting concept of car soccer, why did SARP never take off?
Well, this question is extremely leveled and has more than one solid answer.
Sure, the game did not have great reviews, but this goes much further than just that, because most people who have played SARP agree it's not a horrible game. In fact, while researching, I found that most player-written reviews for SARP are actually extremely positive and optimistic. It's the large, mainstream review platforms that gave the game its negative reputation. So, let's explore the reason these mainstream companies did not advertise the game. Firstly, shortly after the release of the game, server crashes and bugs prevented many from being able to play, instantly turning reviewers away from the game and contributing to the negativity. Further, having just 10 people working on a game is extremely hard to cater toward a big player base, as there's just too much work to do.
How do you collaborate on creative stuff like that when you have a big team? That's kind of a general question. But
well, we were a really small team at the time, right? So
sure.
It's been...
Add this with the fact that the company Psyonix was a fairly unknown, unused company with no reputation, and it's easy to see how even a solid game would fail in this situation. It was the studio's very first solo game, and with that considered, along with 2 million PlayStation copies sold, it was an all-around success.
So, after the release of SARP, where was Psyonix now? They had a solid, dedicated player base that truly loved and appreciated the game.
This is the best game ever made. One of the finest games on the PSN.
But growth was still slow at best. So Psyonix went back to work, developing and helping out on smaller titles. However, in the back of Dave Hagewood's mind, the potential for SARP was still huge.
In 2011, Hagewood met with the team at Electronic Arts, the massive name behind games like Madden and Battlefield. Pitching a possible sequel to his first car soccer project, Electronic Arts declined the offer. Psyonix would go on to develop multiple titles themselves, such as Homefront and Mass Effect 3. However, just 2 years later, the 12-member team at Psyonix would put it all on the line by themselves and go to work on Rocket League.
The development of Rocket League took about 2 years and under $2 million, an extremely low budget considering the game's player base. For reference, a game like the newest Resident Evil cost $100 million to make, and even an older game, like Borderlands 2, cost upwards of $30 million.
However, the tiny but strong development team just powered through. Quickly, the game was made less clunky and more visually appealing. Then, one by one came quick chats, new ranks, an improvement in FPS, and even power-ups, which would later be dropped. It was shaping into the game we all love. Hagewood and his team had laser focused on the issues of battle cars and had made sure to make them the strong points of Rocket League. Finally, in July of 2015, Rocket League was released to an extremely welcoming response.
Rocket League being so special is such a, and why it's so special to me is such a hard question to answer, because you look at it and you're like, it's a bunch of cars hitting a ball, like, what, this is so
Today we are playing Rocket League! Bounces into the corner! Energy still around, Justin hits there for the shot, and Jonathan! This is Rocket League!
It was a perfect hit. Psyonix had drawn up far better anticipation for Rocket League than they had for battle cars by using their larger presence and letting streamers play the beta on Twitch. And this fact showed up instantly in the game sales. Aside from the game's hype and the developers' efforts to spread it far and wide, what truly sent Rocket League to uncontrollable levels of popularity was its spread through word of mouth. It's extremely important to note that updates and additions to the game were also prevalent early on. Extra modes like Snow Day were permanently added.
Yeah, so 3v3, it's called Snow Day.
In October, a DeLorean time machine was released into the game. The next year, the Batmobile would be introduced as part of yet another collaboration, which was around the same time Hoops was put into the game. Next, the very first Rocket League Championship Series would start, or RLCS. RLCS Season 1 gave widespread attention to the game and created the first batch of Rocket League celebrities, the professionals who dominated the beginning, like Kronovi, K-Dop, and Cooksier. But these weren't the only personalities making a name for themselves, as YouTubers like Neat Mike, Woofless, and Jazer were inspiring the next generation of players and creators for the game. Rocket League was blowing up. This time period is often considered the golden age of Rocket League, before the game went super mainstream, when it had a large but intense player base discovering new mechanics left and right. Though the game did not drop off immediately after, the elements that would soon lead to Rocket League's downfall would start to be highlighted in the game.
I feel like for a lot of the older fans of the game gets kind of boring eventually.
I feel like every game my teammates are way too emotionally unstable to handle this game.
Rocket League gets boring sometimes.
As Rocket League left its infancy stage and became a known giant in the sports genre, it kept a good amount of players interested consistently, but its growth had plateaued compared to earlier years. Of course, Psyonix could not expect to contain the explosion they had after release, but for the game to stagnate for a 2-year period was somewhat disappointing. Unique updates were still coming out, but clearly less than the beginning of the game. Things like ranked extra modes and new games like Heat Seeker, Spikes Only, and Drop Shot Rumble kept things spiced up in the game. Even newer, bigger content creators and players were taking over the Rocket League community. Sunless Khan, Squishy Muffins, and the most subscribed Rocket League YouTuber, Musty, saw their careers explode in this middle era of Rocket League. Rocket League still had its committed, big audience wanting to watch Rocket League be played in all fashions,
from streaming to YouTube to pro competitions. This generally peaceful time in Rocket League's history would lead up to 2019, the most important year yet for the car soccer indie game. This is when a company Psyonix had worked closely with in the past came back to strike. Now, Epic Games has been quiet throughout Rocket League's story, but they were still definitely on everyone's radar. What had Epic been doing? Well, in 2017, while Rocket League was a well-established title, Epic Games would change the gaming world forever with their free-to-play game, Fortnite. Fortnite exploded like no game ever has, and was quickly not just the most popular game, but one of the most popular things in America. Now, in 2019, Fortnite was still wildly popular, but clearly on the way down and out. With this, Epic Games made an enormous move, seeing potential in the car soccer game, and acquired Psyonix and Rocket League along with it.
There's no way. It happened. Psyonix, what have you done? Why would you do this to us?
Rocket League's new owner was not welcomed by fans too warmly. With Fortnite plummeting from the top so fast and its reputation in a downward spiral, Rocket League fans feared the same would happen to their beloved car soccer game. Many fans will always see this as the beginning of the end for the game. Epic did not waste any time after acquiring Rocket League to turn it into a cash cow that they could milk every penny out of. An item shop was added, introducing credits, which of course persuaded the user towards spending real-life money on the game. Now, we also must give credit where credit is due to Epic Games. With the huge team, they also made a number of switches that were solid additions to the game. Things like the Party Up button and the revamped tournament scene were both new features I used and enjoyed myself, and got very positive reception from the community. They even changed up the iconic, yet admittedly boring, old-school menu theme. However, the game failed to consistently keep updating uniquely, which would become Rocket League's first reason for downfall: the lack of effort put into updates. This time period saw fewer updates, and the few that we got were mostly pay-to-acquire deals. The game was not evolving or seeing fun new changes at all. Now, I can kind of sympathize with Rocket League on this aspect. Any Rocket League player, myself included, will say that they really don't care what updates are made to the look, the vibe, or the theme of the game. Just don't change the gameplay. Rocket League's gameplay meta has been the same since way back when, and this is a great thing for any game. It creates consistency and allows players to master things and evolve as time goes on, getting better and better. It also creates a community of people who, no matter when they played, all played the exact same game. And they can all relate to each other through that. However, this beloved aspect of Rocket League is becoming a main part of their reason for stagnation. The game can't change because the player base won't let it.
Any slight difference in gameplay would cause a free fire, and rightfully so, as these players who have put thousands of hours into the certain game would feel cheated if it just changed all of a sudden. You know how angry kids would be if you told them that they had to relearn their flip reset double touch 360 musty cross cancel flick again? This denies the development team for Rocket League the ability to make any change to the gameplay, and they instead focus on updates outside of play. While keeping the game fresh is one of its clear problems, not all of the game can be put on the developers. Hopping back into our timeline, this brings us to the year 2020, when Rocket League would experience its biggest update ever. Seeing the success Fortnite had as a free game that got people to spend money inside of it after buying, Epic attempted to do the same thing with Rocket League by making it free to play on September 23rd, 2020. Now, on paper, this is a great thing. Rocket League gets the same mainstream popularity and attention as a game like Fortnite, right? Well, simply put, no. Rocket League is not Fortnite. It's not an open world, endless options and add-on type of game.
Rocket League has a confined number of things you can do in a small space and is guided through menus everywhere outside of games. It does not have the same potential as Fortnite does for endless things to do in the game or endless things for the creators to add to the game.
So, how did going free-to-play work out for Rocket League 2 years in hindsight? Well, it did boom the game's numbers when looking at the stats. Rocket League really did go mainstream for a little bit towards the new year of 2021, reaching its all-time levels of popularity across the board. This was the statistical peak of Rocket League. Yet in retrospect, all free-to-play really did for Rocket League was delay the inevitable. Rocket League was shown to an enormous audience, but people quickly realized it was not meant to be the next big thing. New players looking for something quick, fun, and entertaining quickly saw the limited variety of things to do after a couple games and went on to the next title. This brings us into the final main issue for Rocket League, that the game can just get boring and repetitive over time. Car soccer is a novel, exciting concept, but seriously, how many times do you have to flip reset to realize that the game is limited? Rocket League is not a party game or a play for a couple minutes type of game. Anyone picking up a remote for the first time playing is extremely uncoordinated and unable to do much of anything in the game. It requires work, attention to detail, and time put in to succeed. This is not a formula that works extremely well for mainstream games, as people want something they can jump right into and have fun, not something they have to work hard to do anything exciting in. So, after free-to-play exploded Rocket League's numbers and player base for a couple months, it would then begin its slow, depressing downfall that we currently see it in, heavily due to the reasons of low-effort updates, distrust of Epic Games, and the same old boring car soccer meta. Within a year of releasing free-to-play, Rocket League was at lower numbers than prior to releasing it. In mid-2022 today, we see Rocket League still slowly but surely declining in popularity. The game has not been as low as it is right now in terms of interest since its first couple of months after release. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of Rocket League up to this point only. It is a story that is still unfolding and is not over yet. This video is in no way intended to be an attack at Rocket League, Psyonix, or Epic Games, but rather an honest portrayal of how I view the game. And even though it's grim looking now, Epic can still do things to salvage the game. What they will do, however, is completely up to them.
Rocket League hasn't added a new feature in almost a year, and we still have no idea what's next for this game.